So welcome to another episode of the VIA VHS podcast, and we're entering into the month of March, and it's going to be an exciting month where we go back and look at the 90s because they gave us a bunch of 30s pulp heroes. And, you've been spending some time with Spencer and I, and you got to know us a little bit, and it's been kind of intimate, and I think it's finally time that we give you some Dick. And
The best kind of Dick. Dick ripped in a nice yellow jacket.
Yeah. Tracy. Dick Tracy. One
Tracy, the old classic. Because that's the thing is, Batman 89 came out, and they're like, Batman came out in the 30s. What else came out in the 30s? That was their, logic. It's like, they didn't do the thing like, Batman's been kind of popular, all the way up till now. Like, some of these other guys are a little bit, old school, but they decided no, we're going to run up all the old 30s and 40s kind of pulp heroes, the old school comic book ones, which I think is actually pretty darn neat because I think about something like Dick Tracy now might be a pretty hard sell. He's pretty old. Now he's like over 100 years old almost, the character. So, and it's not like he's really relevant pretty much about since this time period, since the movie. The movie was the last major era of Dick Tracy-ness.
Coincidentally, we'll record this. We choose to do this, and then we had no idea. We chose to do this in March. I can't remember why we chose March, but we did. And on St. Patrick's Day, there's a special run of Dick Tracy comic books coming out.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. And we didn't choose Dick Tracy because of this. We just wanted to do these pulp heroes. And you're right, it's because of Batman. I think what happened with Dick Tracy, I'll give this one a little bit of credit because I think it was already in development. And then they saw what was going on with Warner Brothers and how much money it was clear Batman was going to make. It was going to make an ass load of money. So Disney's like, what do we have? And I'm like, we have this Dick Tracy thing laying around. And I think that's how the 30s thing happened, was because they were looking for an answer to Batman. Like, oh, we had this Dick Tracy thing coming out. And I think they decided to really hype it up. And I mean, because it has an insane cast, and it's one of those multimedia movies that we love to talk about because it's not just the movie. There's the video game, there's the novelization, there's a comic book line, there's the soundtrack, toys, a great action figure line. McDonald's tie-in. Doesn't have a Happy Meal, but that's a McDonald's tie-in. And so it has all the pop culture elements, massive, saturation of the market, multimedia, whatever. And I think they saw Dick Tracy as an opportunity to do what Batman did. And it didn't come close to what Batman did. But this movie is so weird because this is the first movie. Batman, Ninja Turtles, and Dick Tracy are the first movies I can remember hyped for.
Yeah, and it's funny. All three of them comic book ones, and they're all kind of like different style of comics.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And the fact that this is what started this wave off of, because really before this, the only thing you had Superman. Superman was the one big comic book movie. There were some of the Marvel ones they did for TV, like Captain America, and the Doctor Strange, and of course, the Hulk TV show. So there was that, but there wasn't anything just major motion picture for a long time since literally like the serials back in the 50s and so on like that. So they were coming back. They're coming in hard and so on like that. You're gonna come the hard Dick.
Yeah, bring it coming in hard. Yeah. There's just too much Dick jokes with this. I mean, it really is. It is really because of our maturity level. It's nothing that Disney did here.
Well, it's also Warren Beatty. He was probably coming in hard. He was banging Madonna and Donna along the way.
You think so?
That's what they said in the special features.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was reading some of those stuff because he was Warren Beatty was sort of had a fling with Madonna.
He was a hoe.
He was.
Yeah. Well, they say they finally said the song's about a lot of people, but one of the number one people that You're So Vain is about is Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so which makes sense. When I hear that song, that's who I'm thinking of. And I know some of it's about Mick Jagger. What's funny is Mick Jagger sings background vocals in it. Like if he wasn't
still there.
Yeah, like which would be a very Mick Jagger thing to do is know the songs about him a little bit and still sing on it because he doesn't give a shit. And then Billy Simon,
Yeah, and Warren Beatty does a music video.
Yeah.
because he wants to make it all artsy and so on. Well, I know that's the thing about Warren Beatty. Like when it comes a lot of times his filmmaking and so on like that, is he's one of those 70s new Hollywood directors who really puts a lot of effort in, and almost too much effort in, that it gets dangerously close to bankrupting studios. You know, and he makes good movies, but like he does have that. He is that one that he's a producer's kind of nightmare, because you're like, oh shit, how much money is he going to spend on his artsy project?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this in this thing. What this movie is remembered for is the vision he had. Like he wanted to make it look as much like a comic book as possible, and they didn't do some gimmicky thing. They didn't animate it. They just said, let's film an actual movie, but let's use the color palette that matches the comics. Let's, use certain tones. I mean, the paintings in this, the matte painting are just insane.
Unreal. Like this movie is so good looking because of that stuff.
I would say it's one of the most interesting looking movies I've ever seen. Because there's been some movies that try to do something really cool and innovative, and it doesn't work, but you still have to appreciate those because you push the envelope somewhere, and maybe it didn't work out for you, but it's going to help somebody else out, But this one, no, there's not another movie that really pulls it off quite this way. There's some other movies that try to look like the comics. I mean, the Inside the Spider-Verse and stuff like that, and movies that really try to that one Hulk movie, the one they did in the like early 2000s.
Oh yeah.
With the comic panels and stuff, but this one did it in a very interesting way. It's like, this is still a movie. We're not trying to make you feel like you're watching a comic book, but we want to bring in that world of Dick Tracy and adapt that world instead of saying, well, this is Dick Tracy for the movies. No, this is going to feel like a 30s era, thing, but look really good. And man, it looks good.
Yeah, the closest other comic book movie I would say that does the Dick Tracy style, it looks a little bit different just because what it is, but is Sin City. Because Sin City does that same thing where it's like, we want to make it look just like how it looks almost on the pages. And that's sort of the way that this Dick Tracy one is. And it's kind of funny because so many comic book movies, they always they take like the general concept and then just sort of run far away from the material, and, whatever happens, happens. Where the cool thing is about Dick Tracy is it's very, very, make it like the books, make it like the serials, make it feel really like Dick Tracy. Like when you're watching it, you're watching something special. You're watching literally a comic book, jump off the panels and onto the screen. And it's funny how a lot of people have never been able to capture that properly since then. That's not a common thing where like somebody goes, wow, they nailed that perfectly.
Well, they took it very literal. And the biggest thing you'll see is like with the characters like flat top and small face, all those things, like they look very exaggerated on a, pulp panel, like a pulp page, but it works on that. And so then you're going to go to the movies. You're like, okay, well, he's going to have a big head and a small face, but it's not going to be like egregious. But this movie is like, no, it's going to be ridiculous. And like everything's going to be like the prosthetics in this is going to be absurd. But it works. And it's one of those things that could have backfired so easily. Like, and there's a few of them that are like, maybe you could have toned it down a little bit, but it still looks really, really cool. And really, it's very memorable. Very, very memorable. So, I mean, yeah, there's not, I wouldn't say I agree with every aspect of the, artistic liberties they took, but overall, like for the grand scheme of things, this movie is really cool to look at.
Yeah, I totally agree there too. It is one of those ones that's so unique. Now, did you watch this one as a kid growing up?
So yes, but I didn't watch it as much as I played with the toys because I somehow ended up with a surplus of these toys from, I think, like a thrift store or something. And I played the video game a lot. And I forgot that I did that because I saw somebody else do like I said, let's go look at the Dick Tracy video game because I remembered there was one, but I couldn't remember anything about it. And then as soon as I saw somebody start playing it, I'm like, oh God, I had this game. It was at my grandma's house and it was hard as shit. No, I couldn't do anything with it, but I loved driving around. It kind of reminded me of the early Grand Theft Auto games, the overhead map with the car going. And, you go into this place, you lose, you die, and then you go to another cool place and had a really cool tone. It was really immersive, even though it was like really fucking hard.
Yeah, like so many games of that time period.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you watch this one growing up?
I did. This was a big one for me because I was really into Dick Tracy. I would go to like my grandpa's and he would get like the Sunday papers and I'd read the little Dick Tracy comic book strips in there that they reprinted, which probably was because of this movie, realistically. Now I think about it, it wasn't just like that was just a normal occurrence that Dick Tracy was still in the comics. I think because of this movie, it brought him back into like the Sunday papers and so on
Yeah.
like that. And for me, I always love those 30s type characters. Like, I don't care what it is. It's like Batman, Dick Tracy. I mean, even like Indiana Jones and all that stuff. I always just gravitated towards that kind of stuff. I always like to kind of like a cool Humphrey Bogart movie or something. But I always really enjoyed this Dick Tracy movie when I was younger. And then I remember because I bought it on DVD probably in like the early 2000s. I remember kind of going back to it. I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty fun and everything like that. And then I probably haven't seen it since then, and throwing it on again just recently, I was like, wow, I kind of actually forgot how much I did enjoy this one.
Yeah. It's better than I remembered it. Like I think as a kid I was, it is kind of I don't want to say adult, but it doesn't really appeal to kids that much, which is why I think they put the kid in the movie because you want to sell the toys, you want to, all that stuff. But so aesthetically it appeals to kids, but then the story is, kind of risque in some points in time. And it's very, adult themed, and Dick Tracy's trying to figure out if he wants to settle down or, Madonna forever and, things like that. And so it was fun as a kid, but as watching it later is even better. I mean, the story is kind of thin,
Mm-hmm.
but man, it's still a really, really good movie. It is better than I remembered it for sure.
Yeah, that's how I kind of thought. Because I remember kind of when I rewatched it kind of again in the 2000s, I remember being like, it's kind of weird, kind of interesting and goofy and stuff. And I remember it kind of feeling like, yeah, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought when I was a kid. But as I said, this last watch, I was like, no, I actually really dig this one. I think that I like all the kind of the goofiness in it. I like all the weird stuff. I like Al Pacino's extreme acting in here. It probably never stopped. This is like Al Pacino practicing for Heat. Sense to this movie.
Yeah. It's like he took, I mean, almost literally he did do this. It's like he took his previous characters and took bits and pieces from all his previous characters before Dick Tracy and said, okay, let's take this and then mix it with Hitler. And then like we'll have this whatever that was. And it's hard to notice it's him. Like it looks like him and sounds like him, but also feels weird and it's just he's instantly creepy. Like
Yeah, especially when he's trying to sing with Madonna and there's somebody just slapping her ass like, come on, Mo. It's like, okay, he's getting way too much into this character here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just not. Yeah. Well, yeah.
It really is probably the creepiest Al Pacino role. Like,
that's saying something too. That's saying something too. Yeah. It's and kind of coked out a little bit. That's Al Pacino for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the cast is insane in this. But maybe before we get too far into that, we're gonna jump into our what we call it, tail of the tape. I think.
Yes. Tail of the tape.
Let's jump into that, and then we'll come back and review this movie because I think we have a lot to talk about. So we'll be back in a moment with tail of the tape. All right. So tail of the tape, if you've never listened before, we go back to the week the movie was released. In this case, it's June 15th, 1990. And we look back at all the, things that were going on back in June 15th, 1990. And we look at the box office mainly. And if there's any other interesting tidbits, we kind of dive into that too. But movie obviously directed by Warren Beatty, starring Warren Beatty, based on characters by Charles Gould. I think Chester Gould, sorry.
Yeah, Chester Gould, yeah.
Yeah. The Y in Beatty messed me up there. It kind of fell down. Starring Warren Beatty as Dick Tracy and Madonna as Breathless Mahoney. And Al Pacino is Big Boy Caprice. Kid is Charlie Korsmo, which this kid, by the way, real quick, he's like way more successful than anybody now. Like he's like really high into like politics and works on the Obama administration with stuff. It's pretty interesting.
You know,
Uh,
that's what just happens pretty much when when you're in a Dick Tracy movie. Good things
yeah,
happen.
and Hook.
Oh yeah, I forgot that is the Hook kid.
Yeah, that's a kid from Hook.
I just put two and two
Um,
together right now.
yeah, he a lot of good act. Dustin Hoffman twice. He was Dustin Hoffman with both of them back
Yeah.
to back years. Yeah. Um, so yeah, Charlie Corsmo, I think is how you say his name, is the kid in this movie. William Forsythe is Flat Top, Edo Ross as Itchy, and Glenn Heatley, rest in peace, Tress Trueheart. Um, so yeah.
But you also
Um,
got some big ones like you got Dick Van Dyke in there as well
oh yeah, Dick
too.
Van Dyke. I forgot to write Dick Van Dyke down there, which is really
Yeah,
cool. 100 years
you know,
old.
yeah, I know. Dick Van Dyke's the most amazing thing about how fact he just keeps going on. He just keeps trucking.
Yeah. I mean, to be his age, but still be so coherent and like, he says, I want to keep acting. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, shut
exactly.
up. Yeah.
Watch out for those Ottomans. That might take you out now for sure.
Yeah, he's a McDonald's Sprite away from like meeting Jesus. Um, you know, I mean, I would say that he seems pretty spry for his age. It's not like Prince Philip. Prince Philip was like 1% in airplane mode for like 2 decades, but uh, you know, whatever. Um, so box office for this movie, beginning released on June 15th. So we'll look at the top. I think I wrote down 6 here. Number one at the box office, Dick Tracy.
Wait, you found it? I found it.
Yeah, I wrote it down somehow. I actually remember to write it down. Number one at the box office, Dick Tracy. Number two, another 48 Hours, which I was surprised was released in 1990. It feels like it was.
I did
before.
not realize that. I saw that too, and I was like, that movie. For some reason, if I would, you would ask me, I would have said that movie was like '86 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same. I was really surprised that it was there, but that's where it's at. Another 48 Hours. Number three, Total Recall.
Yep, one of my all-time favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger ones, if not my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Ooh,
I kind of juggled that one up, but I like that one a lot.
I can't put it over T2.
See, this sounds weird. This sounds strange. Is in my top 5 Arnold Schwarzenegger favorite movies list. I don't have a Terminator or a Conan in that list.
Ooh.
And that's not saying that I don't love those movies, but there's some other ones that just stand out to me just a little bit more.
I don't know if I have Conan in there either. I definitely have the first two I love the Terminator movies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. They're so good, but I just love so much Arnold that I don't know. I got the ones like True Lies and Last Action Hero and
True Lies,
probably Predator even. I don't know. It's
the third Predator, yeah, fourth, yeah. It'd be tough to say, but I'll have to rank those one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So yeah, number 3 at the box office, Total Recall. Number 4, Gremlins, The New Batch.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 5, well, just down your neck of the woods right here.
Yep.
Back to the Future 3.
Yep, just shot right down the road from me.
Yeah. And Pretty Woman.
Yeah. And then we got another comic book one way down the list. You got Ninja Turtles still hanging out here a little bit.
Highest grossing independent film of all time for a while. I don't know if it still is anymore, but it was for a long time.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Then you got The Adventures of Milo and Otis came out the same day as Dick Tracy. Remember a kid watching that one too.
Yeah, 90 is a weird movie year. It's not bad, but it's like, like, hey, we're in the 90s now. We got to do things differently, but we don't know what the 90s are yet. So it's like it's kind of weird. But weird some good stuff though. But Gremlins and Back to the Future there's that Key and Peele skit where this is like the movie executive and he keeps ruining movie franchises. And the two that he mentioned in the skit was Gremlins 2 and Back to the Future 3. But I like Back to the Future 3, so.
I do too. I love it a lot. As I said, when I was a kid, when I'd watch it, and I'd be like, you have a time machine, and out of all the places you could go to, you go to the 1800s, which we already have like 1,000, 10,000 movies of, So it used to seem like kind of like, what? But as I got older, I definitely came around to it, and I like all the stuff about it and so on.
Yeah. I mean, they had to kind of like they had to go some back in time to where they had to go to the Hill Valley so they could repeat the whole thing.
It had to be in the same town, yeah.
Yeah. You can't go to, I guess you would try to go somewhere in Europe is the only other place you could try to go.
Yeah.
But
Well, my mind kind of went like, well, we got a time machine. We can do all sorts of stuff here.
yeah, they saved that for the ride.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I missed the ride.
I've been saying Universal Studios, listen to me. You have this new cool land. You did a great job with it. Um, Retro land.
Yeah.
Bring back the Back to the Future ride, King Kong, Jaws,
Backdraft.
Backdraft, move ET back over there.
Yeah, T2. Well,
Oh yeah.
it wasn't really a ride. It was like a live action play, but it was badass.
Do they still do the Waterworld thing?
They do still do that. That's
Yes.
the one that blows my mind that they always have that going on. But I'm glad they kind of keep that alive. And they actually, in one of the Halloween Horror Nights, they actually put a twist on it. So they used the same location, but they turned it into what were those horror movies where like you could go out and kill somebody on one day of the year?
Purge or whatever.
So they gave it like a Purge theme, but it was kind of neat because it was just like it just twisted a bit for just the Halloween nights. It was like, oh, okay, completely different story, different action scenes and so on like that. They had cool violence where like the blood would shoot out all over the place when people got shot and fell off the buildings and so on and into the water. But no, the Waterworld's still one of the best parts there.
Dang, I don't know if they have all that at the one in Florida, but I really want to. I've only been to Universal Studios once. I was like 19. They were building the Jaws ride, and the Jaws ride doesn't even exist anymore. So that's how long it's been since I've been. But yeah. So that's your box office. Dick Tracy did pretty well. Made 162 million on a $46 million budget, but it
Yeah, I kind of read that it was 101 in total with all its spending.
yeah. But the good news when you have a movie like this, when you market it, is kind of interesting because Disney spent through Touchstone Pictures, by the way, they spent an insane amount of money marketing this movie. But some of the marketing also made you money because some of the marketing was like the toys, the Disney tie-in and the comics, and so the soundtrack. So yeah, you're spending a lot in marketing, but you're also getting some back with all like extracurricular merchandise sales, which a lot of movies can't have that. Like in this movie, the video game. I mean, so licensing probably kind of counteracted some of that spending, but probably not as much as they wanted it to make at the box office, and definitely more than they probably wanted to spend overall. But you know, still kind of a pretty good hit. I think it was 10th at the box office for that year. So
Yeah, it was a big movie when it came out because that's what I always remember about it. It
yeah,
just didn't have the lasting appeal, but they dropped a lot into it. I mean, they tied things into MTV. Or at Disneyland, they had a Dick Tracy sort of section where they color coded it, kind of like the movie. It wasn't necessarily like a ride, but there was just a section where they rolled in some of the old cars. They got to set things up, kind of like to make it look like the Dick Tracy town and everything like that. So they did a lot for this one. I think it's just one of those ones that they just wanted that Batman money. And it's like that's that one that like people try to chase the Batman money. Only Batman can get that kind of money. There's no other. I hate to even say it, like even Spider-Man can't get that Batman money.
Well, see, I think that's where they kind of lost it with these movies. This month we're doing Dick Tracy, we're doing The Phantom, The Shadow, and The Rocketeer, and they were all chasing that Batman money. And I think they were very misguided because they saw Batman and they thought that's what kids want. They want more 30s pulp heroes. That's what they want. They want more noir. They want more. No, we want fucking Batman. Okay.
Well, it's that they did the blend of two. It was Batman, but it was also Indiana Jones because I think they looked at the success of Indiana Jones and he's a pulp hero, 30s style and everything like that. So I think that was the other main thing that said that, hey, Dick Tracy and Rocketeer, even though Rocketeer's not nearly as old, it's only like an 80s comic, but it apes all the old stuff. It's in the same thing as Indiana Jones. So they really thought that was what they were going to run with all this stuff. And somehow, some way, it just even the Indiana Jones thing just kind of petered out because there used to be a bunch of Indiana Jones kind of knockoff movies too. I mean, the ones like Romancing the Stone, but then there's a bunch of other ones in the 80s too that are sort of there. I mean, you can even say that Crocodile Dundee is kind of like an Indiana Jones-esque movie. It's done differently, but it's kind of a similar type of character, just a man, out of time.
Yeah, I think there's something appealing about this era because it was that last decade where it felt like there was still parts of the world that was a frontier.
Mhm.
You know, you're finally air travel's becoming a realistic thing for like normal people, you know, and people can start to really do adventures and they go to Egypt and like dig up stuff and, you know, go to South America and do things that they would never ever really be able to realistically do. Like you have to be like highly, you know, esteemed at like a college or something to be able to be awarded to go somewhere really exotic like that. So it was a very adventurous decade, I think. The 20s too, but the 30s the most. And it has really cool aesthetic, really cool art comes from that time. The German Expressionism, which is in this movie, but also the Art Deco.
Mhm.
So I just think, I don't know, there's a lot of really cool stuff about the 30s, and it's really easy to market because it has a very distinct visual style. So I think they thought, hey, Batman tapped into a lot of that 30s stuff, but because it's a weird, like, when does it take place? You can't even really tell.
Yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
feel,
It has that mix match always kind of feel of like there's like old technology and new technology sort of fused together.
yeah, it's a very weird kind of element. So I think they're like, hey, we can try to tap into some of that. Even like the logo and the marketing reminds me of Batman because like Batman's the black VHS with the logo on it, and Dick Tracy's black background with its logo, and it's very obvious, you know. It's
Well,
not the ninjas. We're not
if
trying
it
to be Ninja Turtles.
the early 90s is the definite logo branding kind of era where like that's how you do it. You know what I mean? You slap your logo like T2 just right on the cover. You get
Yeah,
what I mean? There's a lot of those movies. Jurassic Park's the other big example of that too. It's just the logo. You don't see any of the characters or anything on there. You don't even see it realistically like a dinosaur. You see the logo of the T-Rex on there is what you see.
yeah, yeah. It's very 90s in that regard. It was definitely trying to trace Batman, but again, Dick
Yeah.
Tracy's never the best version of Dick Tracy, which this might be the best version of Dick Tracy that could ever be done. Is never at its height is never gonna get close to Batman money. The worst
No.
Batman movie is always gonna make more than the best Dick Tracy movie. It's just how it is.
Yeah, and it's
And
like with anything, it's like once again, not even other superheroes can capture that magic of Batman. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
not gonna work. Doesn't matter what Marvel puts out. Even Superman himself can't get close enough to like what Batman can do. It's just
yeah,
Batman just brings it in.
yeah. Just not enough dick in this, to get there. It's
See, because Batman's even got his own Dick. He's got Dick Grayson.
that's true. That's
So
true.
so with Batman, you even get Dick.
Yeah, exactly. So this movie's just not very special when you really look at it. No, it's a fun, and it's the one thing that this movie does have on Batman. The one thing, really, there's two things. The as great as the cast is in Batman, because you get Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
be Joker. That's huge. This cast, there's few movies that can match this. Warren Beatty, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman in here. Did I
Yeah,
even?
and you don't even notice Dustin Hoffman like if you're not paying enough attention
I
because he's
forgot
played.
to write them down.
Yeah, mumbles. He's
Yeah.
literally just like he's doing like Academy Award winning acting in this.
Yeah. I remember what I remembered most from this movie. It's just he's so weird in it and kind of creepy because it feels like Rain Man had a stroke. It's kind of what it
That's exactly
reminds
what
me of.
it is.
Yeah, he's Rain Man. I like honestly that was his approach. Because he's what 2 years after Rain Man when this comes
I
out.
think the same year as Rayman. Or no, I think Rayman is either 88 or 89. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's close. So
Yeah.
he did Rain Man, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do Rain Man again." But no, this time he had a stroke, and he's gonna mumble. Like that's what it feels like. And then next year he does Hook.
Yeah.
He's Captain Hook, which is best role I think.
Yeah.
And that's
So
saying something with him, but he's so
yeah.
good as Hook. Um,
Well, I was gonna say this real quick. This is the thing that Dick Tracy really has over Batman, especially Tim Burton's Batman. Is Dick Tracy's actually very comic book accurate, where Tim Burton was known for not liking Batman a whole lot and just doing his own thing, and sort of
yeah,
like really stretching the property a little bit farther than it is. Don't get me wrong, I love Batman '89, but you got to always go into it with a slight open, like any of those Batman movies. You got to go into it with a little bit of an open mind and don't have too much Batman logic to weigh you down. Where Dick Tracy, on the other hand, though, literally is just like ripped straight from the comic books. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost one of the most accurately done movies you could say in all
Yeah.
time.
I'll say this about Batman '89 because we'll eventually review it. I am an apologist for that movie. I don't like it. I have a lot of
Same.
problems with it. I don't like the narrative decisions they made, but what he did, because you think about this, you're making a movie of Batman in the '80s. You got two different types of people that are going to see that movie. You got the people who are expecting Adam West Batman,
Yep.
which is, kind of, kind of campy, silly, fun, gay.
Yeah, sitcom-y almost.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a weird little, it's 60s silliness. You know what I mean? It's, beach party bingo meets, Cape Crusader, and everybody there's, it's just a weird sex party. And
And the
so,
funny thing is, when I was a kid watching that, like, I watched it like it was straight serious. Like, I mean, you
yeah,
probably laughed at stuff, but I looked at it like, this is Batman. This is, there's serious crimes going on here.
yeah, we gotta beat this guy's ass. And then you get the bang, boom, pow, which is, so you have that version of Batman, but then the comic people, they're just now reading Frank Miller, and you got this
Mhm.
detective noir, like dirty, grimy, and then you get some weird guy named Tim Burton to come in there, and he's like, "You got to make both these people happy, but also sell a shit ton of toys and make a good movie." And that
And put your vision on top of it because
that's it too. You also have to have your vision. So what he pulled off with that is incredible. How he was able to blend the Adam West stuff with the Frank Miller stuff, have his own ideas in there. Impressive. Do I like it? No, I think he made some dumb narrative decisions. The Batman Returns, however, I love that one.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think I've come around on the other way around. I like the '89 one a little bit more because and Batman Returns. Somewhere I still like Batman Returns, but Batman Returns is almost even more kind of like wonky in a weird way.
Yeah.
Still
Well,
fun. The number like you can never take that away from being like growing up with those movies. Like I think that's the thing is like
yeah.
there's something very special about that time period.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you see the cut behind me. I'm more nostalgic about the about Returns for some reason. But
Yeah.
I love them both. But Dick Tracy is what we're talking about, and I'm nostalgic for that too.
Yeah.
So I think we said, real quick, one last thing here in the what are we in the teletape? So the critic score, 63% on the tomato meter, 53% audience. I don't think audiences. I think it'd be way more favorable if done now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know because I'm gonna say this. This is one of those weird movies that back in the day, and I think this is why it has such a big roster, is I think because everybody wanted to be in this because
Yes.
all those actors growing up, Dick Tracy was, their childhood, like, character. So everybody was really excited to be in it. I kind of hate to sort of say it, but I feel like now we're even more removed from Dick Tracy that he would seem even. The only, I guess, way you could probably do the Dick Tracy now is you'd have to do it more like the Dread movie would be the best ways. You turn it into like a rated R one. You do it probably Walter Hill, who had this script or had Dick Tracy for a moment. He wanted to make it a very rated R, grounded in like kind of gangster movie, which would have been kind of interesting in its own way, But I feel that's what you would do. Or you do, this is actually a good example of probably how you do Dick Tracy nowadays, but I don't know if it'd still sell to a wide audience, but was like Punisher Warzone.
Yeah.
Because Punisher Warzone was kind of over the top, but still really violent.
Yeah. I don't know if, it's very polarizing because it is definitely a very distinct artistic thing, and you're making that kind of, you're drawing a line in the sand. So either you really like it or you really don't, which is, I think it's really a shame that they put so much money into marketing this movie because Warren Beatty did not like that. He didn't like all the, side stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, he is, once again, he's New Hollywood to the max.
Right. Yeah. So I think if they could have put more into the, movie, because they cut a little bit out of this movie too. If they would have been able to just, let's focus on that and focus on getting the right people in here instead of like trying to sell toys and catch up with Batman. I think it could have been a little bit better, but it's such a distinctive thing. Like either you really like it or you don't. And even when I'm watching the movie, there's things about it I love, and there's things I'm like, oh, this is just kind of boring. Like I don't care. Like the kid, I don't give a shit about that kid. So
Yeah, no, I know. You know what? I'll say this: that critic score kind of makes sense to me. It's about a 50-50, and I would say that's how this movie is. You're either gonna like it or you're not. There's not a whole lot of middle ground in it. You know.
right. But I appreciate that because there's a lot of movies that just play it safe. Well, all the movies today play it safe.
Yeah,
You know what I
and that
mean?
makes a lot of them bland.
Yeah, it makes a lot of them bland. And when you take like a very bold artistic stand when you make this movie, it's not going to be for everybody. So, um, but the critics love Warren Beatty, so I think they helped out a little bit too. And I think one thing that a lot of critics were ready to jump on Madonna, I think, from the get go because she can't act, but she's great.
This is her phase of like she's gonna keep trying.
Yeah, she's gonna keep trying, but this worked for her. This was perfect. So I think that knocked a few points off the critic score already, just her being there. So I don't know. The audience, they were less favorable to it, which is rare to see. But any last things you want to add before we get out of the tape?
No, I think that's about it for me on that one.
Here we go. All right. Well, we're done with that. We're gonna go ahead and jump into our rewind review, and we'll be back in just a moment. Dragon. I gotta wake up. That damn time change.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I asked you at first. It was like I didn't know if it was like Arizona out there.
No, what happened with that? What I was mentioned earlier, Tom Cotton, Arkansas, Republican. It's a Republican-sponsored bill. Everybody voted yes on it. All the Republicans they needed. He didn't do it because kids in East Arkansas are going to go to the school in the dark. So what would have happened if they passed it? We would have sprung forward today and then never fall back. It was just
interesting.
Yeah, that's what would have happened. The Sunshine Protection Act is what it's called. And there's some fucking vampires out there that want to take an hour away all year long.
Yeah.
And they can eat a dick.
I'm one of those goopy ones.
Yeah, I like sunshine. All right. All right, so we're back, and we're going to go ahead and jump to the rewind review of Dick Tracy. And interesting movie. Again, we're doing the 30s pulp heroes this month. And this is just such it's kind of a surreal movie, really. It's kind of a weird thing because like we talked about before, they took a very bold artistic stand at this. And what they created was something that not all of it works. Not all of it doesn't have the broad appeal that they wanted it to have, especially with all the tie-ins and stuff. But it made a mark for sure. And there's not a lot of movies like this. There's not a lot of movies there's movies that have certain elements of this, but nothing exactly like Dick Tracy.
Yeah, no. It is its own unique thing, It is the old school kind of detective noir thing, but with how much color and character and just the design of it reminds me of like the old school movie magic.
Yeah.
Because this is still in a pre-CG era. I mean, I know you got a couple other movies, like The Abyss and so on that are using CG now, but it's not a common thing to have CG in there. So everything is still handcrafted, handmade. It's makeup effects. It's painted backgrounds. There's so much neat stuff in here. But what I like about that is it feels more like you're in an actual world, even if it might feel kind of put together and almost even cartoony in a sense. It still feels so much more real than if this was CG or anything like that,
Yeah, it feels like an alternate world. And when those people who are in it, it makes sense. And it doesn't feel like, it doesn't contrast. It just feels like, the 30s were the 30s, and it stayed like that forever. And but you mentioned like it's kind of like it's reminiscent of that era of Hollywood. And I think that's one of the reasons why you got so many actors that want to be part of this, because That's what they grew up watching, and that's, a very special age in Hollywood, and they kind of wanted to recreate some of that. And but they used techniques that the matte paintings, there wasn't a whole lot of that after this. Maybe this is one of the last movies to do paintings like that. They did some yellow screen thing, which, I think this was the last movie to do that particular type of yellow screen stuff. I don't even know what it is, but I was reading about that. And so,
I think it's the vapor process.
yeah,
That
yeah,
thing. I think it's the last movie they ever do that, or at least
yeah,
last big movie. And then they got the sweet composite shots in there too, where you can, got one thing in the foreground totally in focus and the background totally in focus, and they've split two images together, which looks
yeah.
really cool. It's almost like there's so many neat like tricks and editing schemes and just shots in here that if you were just watching just as like the visual digestion of it all, there's so much cool stuff going on.
Yeah. Which is another thing that has in common with Batman, because Batman has a very distinct visual
Yes.
style. It looks so good, but that leans more to the gothic, the dark, has more of that German expressionism in it. And then this is just very bright, very, solid colors. You know what I mean? I felt like I was watching Gumby.
Yeah, well, there's like there's six like major colors being used in here because that's how Warren Beatty wanted to do it. Just like, the color scheme you'd get in the Sunday paper. That's all we're getting.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It really, really worked. I mean, this such an amazingly like well done movie in terms of aesthetically. And it would be one thing if they did it and like they stuck to it. Now you can admire that, but you could also see where that would just be really annoying. And a lot of people don't like it. There's some people who just don't like the way this movie looks, and I get it. But to me, man, it's just the way this thing is lit,
Yeah.
the tones, the saturation of it looks so so good.
Yeah, just as the visual piece, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Then you lead you into your Dick Tracy world and you get the mobsters and the gangsters, and everything's just 30 to the max. And just literally, it's got the whole like gang of all Dick Tracy's kind of villains all kind of rolled into one. Like they literally throw like almost everybody in here. It's almost like if you came out making a Batman movie, and the very first movie had like not only like Joker but Penguin and Catwoman,
Yeah.
and Riddler and just Two Face and just every single person you could think of. You just start throwing them in there. Croc, Poison Ivy, didn't matter.
Yeah, that was one thing about this movie I think that worked and didn't work is that so I think it was a good idea to have all them in there because people aren't, you know, even before Batman 89, you sit down and ask somebody who doesn't read comics to name like 5 or 6 Batman characters, they probably could.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely could not do that with Dick Tracy. So having them all in there and then making it make sense to the story while all of them are in there is so, so good. But then because there's so many moving pieces and so many, you know, parts, it also feels like a movie that you're thrown right into because it's not an origin story, which I do like,
Mm-hmm.
but you feel like not only are you thrown into the middle of Dick Tracy's career, but it feels like you're thrown into the middle of a story. And they did have 2 other comics that tied into this particular movie that were the first parts of the story.
Oh, interesting. So yeah,
So,
they actually had like you had to get the prequel comics to go along with this.
yeah, because what you're seeing is basically the 3rd act of a story. Like Dick Tracy's got stuff that's going on with him. He's, really, really, really embroiled in this, fight with these gangsters and bringing down this, kind of criminal empire. Then I was also got like a girlfriend who definitely wants to settle down and he wants to, get a cozy desk job and stop putting his life at risk. And you have kind of all that theme and stuff going on there too. But um, damn, I forgot where I was going.
Well, I was gonna say, and then you have the kid that witnesses the murder, and then he becomes like, okay, we got to get his like testimony and whatnot like that. And then this kid ends up being an orphan and so on like that. So he's kind of like partially adopted by Dick Tracy and Tess and all that stuff, and they're just living there. But he's afraid that at some point Dick Tracy's just gonna drop him off at like the Catholic school, and next thing you know, he's gonna be the next Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah. So you have like all the Dick Tracy stuff with, and his arc and all that stuff, but then you have all the villains and, he's trying to, you have to balance all these storylines. But so there was 3 comics. The 3rd one was just an adaptation of the movie. but the first two were like the story that led up to this. And it does feel kind of abrupt when you're watching the movie because Al Pacino early in the movie, or what's his B-Boy Caprice,
Yeah.
kind of takes over this, you know, um, club from what Lips? What is his name? Lips.
Yeah, Lips is that guy. They got the big old lips. It's one of those ones I always picture. Like if you were flipping through TV and like this movie popped up and you saw some of these characters, you'd be like, "The hell is going on in this movie?"
Yeah, you'd have to stop
with no context. You're like, "What is this?"
Yeah, like who's this guy playing Hitler? Oh wait, what is that Al Pacino? Wait, what is going on? Yeah, and I mean, not to go through the whole plot, but it's weird. The one thing I'll say about it is it does feel like you're thrown into the third act of a movie because it feels like a culmination of what's going on in Dick Tracy's life and a culmination of what all these mobsters are doing. And it really just feels like, oh, the third act, he gets the club, and now we're watching everything kind of fall into place. Um, but it really is the third act because there's two comics before, which most people didn't read. So I think that really kind of hurts it. So it's good that all the villains are there, but it's also bad because there's just too many moving parts and you can't really. I was kind of lost as to what was going on the first
Yeah,
15, 20 minutes.
Well, that and then it's like some of these guys just don't get a whole lot of screen time. They're just kind of hanging out there in the back, and so on like that. And yeah, it does just get kind of rip roaring going. And here's the thing: is those comic books is like a lot of those Dick Tracy ones, you can't really just go out and get them anymore. So it's like they're kind of lost in time. You have to go buy them used on eBay or something like that to go find them. And I do know that Warren Beatty has mentioned that there's supposed to be like an extended director's cut of this movie that was supposed to come out during the Blu-ray days and never really did. That was supposed to have an extra like 10 or 15 minutes in it. I don't know if that will, add in more to explain anything else or catch things up, but it would have been interesting to kind of see because I think this was one of those movies that Disney kind of told Warren, like, this isn't Reds. It doesn't need to be 3.5 hours long. Pull it back a bit. Or Ishtar.
Don't get me started. Katzenberg did get on to him a little bit and told him to cut some of it out. And I think there's probably a little bit of context missing and also just, it just feels very abrupt the way you get into it. Now, the ending doesn't feel that way at all. The ending feels very satisfying, but I actually had to go read the plot. Like, what is actually happening? And even when I read the plot, it says it picks up where these two comics, I'm like, okay, so this is like a big thing. Like, that was, it's maybe instead of putting those T-shirts in theaters, because they did this big thing where they were putting all these T-shirts for everybody to buy to make extra money. Maybe they should have put the fucking comics in there. So
Yeah, exactly.
figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, no, when probably at the time period, those comics are probably being pushed really hard, but like in the long run, those are those things you always got to kind of think about. Like people aren't going to be having that access to those comics,
Yeah, especially now because I like you. I tried to go find them. I wanted to read them.
Yeah, I did the same thing too, and I was like, oh, these and just Dick Tracy comics in general are not easy to find. Like, they haven't really been putting out too many reprints of the stuff either. I notice there is a new series of Dick Tracy I saw out there, but that was about it. Like everything else was even reprints were not the most common.
Yeah, it's called like it's the True Hearts and something series. Is what it's called. The True Hearts and Tommy Gunn's trilogy is what it's called.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, and so those three, and I tried to read those three, and I could not find them. So, good luck. I did find them eventually, but they were like really expensive. I was like, no, fuck that shit. So maybe I should wait to read the plot. But yeah, so the story in there is kind of thin, but it's so a lot of people will say it's style over substance. I don't think that's the intention. I think there's more substance than it's given credit for. But I can see where people would feel like that because you have something that's very, very hyper stylistic in the story that feels like it's kind of unsatisfying to an extent, because especially if you don't know that there's more context in other media, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I do think once you kind of get rolling, I mean, at first it starts off with this big group of characters, and you think you're gonna like, oh, I gotta know like 15 of these gangster guys all at once. Once Al Pacino sort of shows up, it like funnels down to mainly him and a couple other guys that are sort of like his, right hand men. So a lot of these other ones just kind of they almost disappear after that like first couple like meetings, and then all of a sudden now it's Al Pacino running the show, and he sort of takes over and so on like that, and then it just seems like okay, now you have Dick Tracy against big boy Al Pacino and so on like that, and now it's kind of like summed up. But I will say initially you're just introduced to like a ton of characters right off the bat.
Yeah, right. Like the first scene of the movie, and I was just like you too. I'm like, this is gonna be way too much, and so they just kind of use the first movie to kind of kill off half of them. To like, hey, we got them on screen, but we're moving on. So yeah, the villains is pretty much mainly Al Pacino, who's batshit crazy in this, has Big Boy Caprice. You got Flat Top,
Yep.
Itchy, and Mumbles are like the main ones.
Yeah, the main recurring ones.
Yeah. And even Mumbles is kind of doesn't serve the plot as much as I would have liked him to. But those are the main bad guys. Yeah, and then of course you have other people who you later find out are bad guys. So big cast again. So you have Al Pacino, Big Boy Caprice, and then of course, as long with Warren Beatty as Dick Tracy, you have Madonna in here, who's at the height of her whatever that shit was.
Well, this is the Madonna era too, where she's really into being in like the 30s and 40s and doing like, her Marilyn Monroe thing and what. Yeah. So this movie almost felt like a perfect place to place her. It wasn't like some of those other ones where she's like the tag along friend and like other like rom-com type films. Like, here's a place, this fits with the vibe she's going with at the moment and whatnot. I mean, she's hanging Warren Beatty, Dennis Rodman will be next.
I heard a really funny story. This is like, I hate talking about her like this, but it's just how it is. I mean, I will say too, though, I mean, yeah, she's got Vogue out at this point in time, but she is relating heavily to that 30s and 40s kind of like bombshell kind of like, vibe that she's going for. And she does make it work really well, really well.
Yeah.
I did read that they wanted, coincidentally, Michelle Pfeiffer as one of the people. And that's the only other person I saw in there that I feel like could have pulled it off.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting one there too.
Yeah.
I do think that the main thing that makes the Madonna one kind of work is that it is one of those ones where it's like it does work well if you do have a singer that can like handle all the songs.
Right, and she does, and the sound these songs are good that they wrote for this.
Super
good.
You have Stephen Sondheim, who I always think of as Sweeney Todd, but West Side Story is the other real major one he's done, and so on like that. So that's the thing about this movie is it has like none of the movies got this like real like double down like big soundtrack of these Stephen Sondheim songs, which makes it almost feel partially musical, but it's not musical, but it's
yeah, you're right. And Disney's the perfect company to do something like that because they know how to intertwine the music in there and then market the music from the movie, which is usually like if you have a movie with marketable music, it's like the key is get it on the radio. Where this is kind of different. It's meant to serve the movie as more serve the radio. Even though I think they did get some airplay and did kind of well, but they were part of Madonna's tour, and Madonna used these songs on her tour. But I mean, yeah, I will say this: if I had to pick between Prince and Madonna, I like Madonna. I mean, Prince better. I like Prince way better. Yeah. But if I had to pick between the Batman music and the Dick Tracy music, I'm picking the Dick Tracy music. Like,
oh yeah, well, here's the thing: is Madonna music fits in the Dick Tracy one. The Prince music always just feels odd in the Batman one, and I like Prince, but
yeah, it just doesn't work. I mean, the only time it works, I think, is the Jack Nicholson thing at the end where he's like on the street and stuff. I think there's some Prince in there, but it doesn't work like Madonna in this movie. She was perfect, and and she flashed Al Pacino too, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, when Al Pacino comes up and just, I got a great big ass. He's like 2 steps away from that here.
Yeah,
come on, and just walking around like fucking the Hunchback of Notre Dame, like guiding these poor girls.
Yeah, what's funny is I read that. I don't know what Big Boy Caprice looks like in the comics, but that was the one that they took the most artistic liberty with. Like it looks like that character, but not as much as the other ones do. Like Flat Top looks straight up like Flat Top. Yeah. And this one they took a little bit more. So I'm like, okay, So what part of this did you take artistic license with? Because it's weird, and it makes me think that you're weird as fuck because it was I don't know, man, like, they clearly hit stuff in there, and it's just like, I don't know. Why did you wanna do that so bad?
Yeah, it's almost like Al got a little too excited to be playing against Madonna on these scenes.
Yeah, and what's weird too is he's so obnoxious and so off-putting that usually that equals stupid. But in this, he's not. He's very, like, well-read, you could tell. He's always quoting different, like, historical figures and stuff like that. So, like, he's obnoxious, he's kind of foolhardy, um, but he is well-read and stuff. So he's, like, smart and stupid simultaneously. It's a weird character, but, I mean, it's Al Pacino, man. Al Pacino with Warren Beatty, and that's, like,
Yeah.
you already got me in there. And I don't
Yeah.
even like Warren Beatty, but
I like Warren Beatty quite a bit. He's always got interesting movies, and I mean, he's kind of. I felt like he's kind of perfect for Dick Tracy because he's in Bonnie
yeah.
and Clyde, and everything like that, and he does all the other gangster ones too. He did the Bugsy one and so on like that. But
Yeah.
there's a few there, but yeah, those two there, and then the fact that Dick Tracy's always trying to get Big Boy, but he cannot find any evidence of him in the act doing anything, and Al Pacino plays that real well of just like almost like he is just like I'm just a good old person, I'm just doing my thing, and Dick Tracy's just trying to always stick it to me, you
Yeah.
know.
And he believes that, which is you want the bad guy to really think that too. He kind of believes it. But that's another example too of where this movie feels kind of rushed or like you're missing something because early in the movie, Dick Tracy, he's trying to figure out what's going on with these bad guys. He's trying to figure out what happened to Lips. And he just jumps into like a mode of interrogation that seems like something you would see in the third act, where he's like, okay, now I've had enough of this shit. We're gonna get these people in there. We're gonna torture, basically fucking waterboard Mumbles. And like he's taking all these like, you know, unconstitutional like investigative tactics. And it feels like a really weird way to go early in the movie. So it kind of shows that Dick Tracy's brash, brazen, and he's, here to get answers. He doesn't give a shit about your pussy ass rules. But then at the same time, it's like, this is kind of early in the movie for this kind of like, stuff to happen. So
He's literally like Cobra, where he just shows up and does what he feels like is gonna work out. Like that's the thing I noticed how like throughout this movie, because there's even stuff later down the line where like Dick Tracy is like, he's a cop, but he is definitely doing his own thing.
oh yeah, no, he doesn't give a shit about protocol, man. He's here and he gets away with it. And I love when movies do what this movie does is where they kind of make him like almost a folk hero and like popular within that world too. So like Dick Tracy's just basically a dick. He's a private eye, he's whatever. But he's like known throughout the town. He's a celebrity. He's one of the, most eligible bachelors and everybody they talk about him on the right. Dick Tracy's really caused all this trouble. Like everybody in the town, like, yeah, Dick Tracy, yeah, we know that guy. So
Yeah, even the guy at like
anyway,
the diner who like Dick Tracy's always like, ah shit, what'd you put on this thing, Matt? Like, come on, man. Like you put
yeah.
rubber tires in here.
Yeah, the banter with the guy at the diner was a nice touch. I like that they did that. That was like a really, you know, little wrinkles like that add stuff to this character throughout the movie, which makes it nice that you don't have to have the origin story because you learn a lot about Dick Tracy in here.
Yeah, just like through the way he interacts with a lot of the other characters and so on, and him talking to Tess and everything like that, and how it's like they're this couple, but like they're also sort of like it's like they're dating, but they all like they live in their own area and so on like that. They're not 100% fully committed, but
Mhm.
Tess would like to be, but Dick's always so involved in his work and everything like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the movie is on the Dick Tracy end. He's he's desperately trying to find these people, but he's also trying to maybe I should settle down. And then like you mentioned, the orphan just shows up. There's a kid that's fucking like Oliver Twist, Aladdin, kind of kid on the street, and like stealing watches and shit like that. And of course, Dick Tracy, um, ends up taking care of this kid, and he's starting to create a little family without meaning to.
Well,
Uh,
I love because like there's the kid, which is literally what his name is. Um, literally has this. I don't know if it's exactly his dad or it's just the other hobo guy he lives with. But that guy like goes and beats the kid at one point, and of course Dick Tracy finds him and is like, "Nope, you're not having that." So then he beats the living daylights out of this guy in there, so much so that it's literally shaking this guy's shantytown house back and forth. I love how they made an action figure of the guy that beats children.
Yeah, the tramp. Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite aspects of this movie is because like so the action figure line, we'll touch on that real quick. So it's Playmates, and you can tell. Is if I had some of those action figures as a kid, and guess what they were? They were bad guys in my Ninja Turtle games because they fit right in. They,
It sounds weird. Ninja Turtles like Dick Tracy crossover would not seem at all out of the question.
no, it would fucking go hard, I think.
I think so. I think that's almost what Dick sort of need a little bit more of is crossovers. And I think him with the Ninja Turtles, because perfect examples, Ninja Turtles, they already put on like, like the Dick Tracy kind of outfits anyways when they look like they're going to go to the adult movie store.
And April wears the yellow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. They do, yeah, they're doing a G.I. Joe Ninja Turtles crossover right now. Because He-Man, he was the past couple years, and now they're doing Ninja Turtles.
It sounds weird. Like the G.I. Joe one still is an interesting one. I don't think it works nearly as well as Dick Tracy would with Ninja Turtles. I agree. That's almost like a perfect crossover.
Yeah, I agree, and I wish they would do it. But of course, Playmates just losing the license to Ninja Turtles after all these years. This year, there will be no Playmates Ninja Turtles after this year. So any classic ones they want to get out, they got to get out under the wire this year. So and I don't think they're going to do anymore. Yeah. So, but yeah, they had a Playmates line. They have the Tramp or whatever I think is what he's called.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just beating the shit out of this kid. That's basically what he does in the movie. He's like, the kid shows up, he steals a watch. He's like, "Oh, you got was this shitty watch? You got a fucking Casio?" Just smites the kid. It's like, oh yeah, it was a Casio. Well, speaking of the devil, they did make a toy of Dick Tracy's like two-way watch where he could talk to people.
Yep.
Man,
you could win one.
Yeah. If this movie would have been bigger, that could have been better than Tall Boy.
Yeah, especially if the thing worked. If it was a legitimate, like, like walkie-talkie.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it needed to be, was just be a cool little miniature walkie-talkie. Like, I don't what the hell it'd be powered by back then, but,
Yeah, who knows? Well,
I guess the other option you could do is it wouldn't be nearly the same, but you could have just made it like literally a little portable radio, so it just had a little tuner on it. So it's not necessarily like a talker, but like you could just have the radio on it.
Yeah.
So you could see how long you get that taken away from you in school.
Yeah. Yeah, like 2 seconds, because I know I went to school with a watch that had a video game on it, and that lasted like 2 seconds.
Yeah, the second it goes off.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And now I have a watch with Atari games on it, so
nothing's changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed. So yeah, so you have the kid, which here's the thing. It's a lot like Anakin Skywalker in Phantom Menace. Like, you didn't need to have a kid in here. But I also kind of get it because you're marketing this movie to kids and you're trying to sell toys. And Disney was smart enough to be like, hey, you can't do what Batman Returns does before they do it, where you have, because this is just some suggestive stuff in here. I mean, Madonna's slutty as hell in this movie.
Yeah, she literally comes out with her tits pretty much hanging out.
Yeah, and like really just making it blatantly obvious what she wants to do to Dick Tracy. And so you can't make that action figure. You can't make that part appeal to kids, but you can,
But you can make that guy that beats children, though. That's okay.
Yeah, that's fair game. It's the 90s. Yeah. Just a shit about the messy.
It's the 90s. We have the Mighty Ducks, where Emilio Estevez gets a DUI and then has to like teach a group of kids hockey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Our morals were a little messed up. Yeah. I mean, when you think about Space Jam's the movie Michael Jordan makes, says he's like kicked out of the league for gambling.
Yeah.
So not really, but yeah, there's just a lot of suggestive, weird stuff in here. This movie was, they made the decision to move it to the Touchdown Pictures line because it's not Disney enough. It's very,
Well, is this movie is the movie still only PG? That is actually.
I was going to ask you that.
Because I just had to take a look at the back here because it feels very much like a PG-13 movie. I am surprised.
Yes.
I really actually, to tell you the truth, this movie totally slips under the radar for being able to get a PG. I do not know how it did because this movie's full of a lot of violence. I mean, like,
Disney's like, you mean it's PG? Like, no, it's
yeah,
PG-13. Like, are you sure?
yeah, like this movie's got probably more violence in it than like a majority of PG-13 movies have. You know,
Yeah.
think of any mob violence in any other movie: Goodfellas, Godfather, Scarface. It's all in here. I mean, it's not bloody necessarily,
Yeah. It's not
but
as
every
bloody.
single type of violence that's in those movies is in this movie.
I agree. Yeah. There's a really cool Tommy gun shootout in this movie. That's really cool. And there's some like, early in the movie, what starts really the whole story of this movie is they bury a guy in concrete, which I remember traumatized the absolute shit out of me.
And they sold an action figure of it too.
And of course they did, man.
Gave him cement shoes and everything. That's how the movie starts off. It's like the dude gets concreted. Another guy dies by a car bomb.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
then to top it off, there's like this goes a little bit farther on, but there's a point where Dick Tracy gets framed by, of course, Big Boy and everything like that. So the whole city's turned against him. Well, Dick Tracy literally, as he's supposed to be going to jail because he hasn't got out of it, his two cop buddies are like, it's going to take us 8 hours to get to the jail. So what do you say we go and solve this crime? And they just literally load up on Tommy guns and just start going and massacring people like, above the law.
Yeah.
Which I will have to say, speaking of our explosions of the year, the one where Dick Tracy is firing that Tommy gun and the cars blow up behind him. Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the definite contender. It's definitely the coolest one.
Yeah.
We'll take a break just real quick to talk about Explosion of the Year. If you don't know what Explosion of the Year is, we're looking at all the movies we'll review in 2026 and decide which one has the best explosion, which explosion is the best. I don't know if the explosion is cool as Hard Target, but like him holding the Tommy gun and shooting it in front of the explosion really elevates it. It's really cool.
And I think that's what it's got to be. It's got to be the whole shot. The explosion itself really needs to be sweet, but what is the shot going along with it, I think adds the whole,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that one has a strong chance so far. I mean, we're only in March. But yeah, the Dick Tracy explosion, really, really good. There's a few, but that was like the main one.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of few there. But what I was saying is Dick Tracy just starts going to town and he starts killing these mobsters off left and right, like with literally no badge. He is literally a rogue agent.
Yeah.
At this point, he's supposed to be going to jail.
Yeah.
And it's his trial.
And he doesn't somehow. I can't even remember.
He gets out of it. I think as he proves it in this, the whole thing. Because the whole point of this movie is that really Dick's trying to go around trying to find somebody to testify. And at first he gets the kid. And once he realizes that this 6-year-old kid just is going to eat, or he's not 6-year-old, whatever, 10-year-old kid, he just wants to eat and, wants to talk smack and doesn't want to go to the orphanage and whatnot. Is not going to go stand up and, tell people that he saw a murder take place. The next best thing is Madonna, because Madonna has all the inside stuff on Big Boy, Al Pacino. And so he's really trying to get her to come in and be the witness, but she doesn't want to take that because it is a dangerous thing. You go up there on the stand, that's it for you. You're never going to be in this town again. You might not be alive again. Be sleeping with the fishes. All that kind of stuff.
It shows how morally just Dick Tracy really is, because he could have just gave Madonna the D and she would have testified and said whatever she wanted to say. She was really...
She just wanted the big D.
Yeah. I think Dick Tracy's the only person that didn't get it from Madonna in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. He's literally the one of the guys who's able to be like, no, Madonna, I'm sorry. I like my redhead like girlfriend.
Yes. There's a really cool, I'll have to share it because I can't remember all the details. There's a really funny story about Tom Arnold that he tells. And he's like, in the 90s, I can't remember what movie they were shooting together, but he and Hugh Grant became friends. And they went and saw Madonna in concert. And Hugh Grant was he was going to score with Madonna. And so they went over to their apartment because they were having like a little get together. And there was this big cake there on the table. And it was just Tom Arnold, Hugh Grant, and Madonna. And Madonna was getting ready for people to come over or something. So they ate some of this cake and she got really, really mad. And like she kicked him out of the apartment and he stole something. something very valuable. I can't remember what it was. Hugh Grant stole it, and Tom Holland was like, "Man, now you're not gonna get a chance to sleep with Madonna because everybody gets a chance to sleep with Madonna. You don't get the chance to steal this stuff." So maybe I'll have to insert it in there because they definitely tell it better than I did. But that was kind of Madonna's reputation, early '90s.
Yeah, well, she had that book called Sex. If that didn't tell you all.
Yeah, it's not like, see, that's the thing when you're like, I don't want to be me, I don't want to slut shame here, but then she's like, that was like her whole thing. Like that was like, you know, her whole persona.
Yeah, once again, she goes through different eras, and that's what she was going with. He was doing it was like almost like the '30s thing was faded out, and then she was gonna go into like the one where she's just gonna take a bunch of pictures, like an artsy nudie book, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I cannot decide if I think she's attractive or not.
That's the thing that even when I'm watching this movie too, I kind of think that too. And I was watching with Laura. Was looking at her, and she's like, she looks like she's Christopher Walken's sister.
Wow.
And she's like, now I can't see, I can't undo that now because every time I look at her face, it looks like Christopher Walken's.
Like a virgin. Wow.
In a material world. So yeah, next
Vogue.
So now next time you look at Madonna, look at her, and she looks like Christopher Walken mixed with like Arnold Schwarzenegger's like gap in the teeth that he used to have that he fixed over time, but she didn't.
Such an interesting person.
It really is,
Because I don't know a whole lot about her, like previous fame, like how she got going. Like I just don't know a whole lot about Madonna. She's like one of the biggest celebrities of our lives. Like,
Yeah, literally.
yeah, beautiful.
Like Tom Arnold, it's like I think of that line in True Lies when he goes like, he's like, "You're not their parents, Madonna and Axl Rose are." And that's the most like early '90s explanation is right there. It's like, yeah, that's about right. That's the same way I feel too. It's like one of those ones. Like I know a handful of Madonna songs throughout time, and I do enjoy, some of the tunes she's got. But I'm not like a super expert, other than the stuff that like when I'd watch like VH1 and stuff back in the day and whatnot. Like, and that's like, I remember I had to explain that in class one time. Like, for some reason, something related to Madonna, and I had to explain the Sex book. And somebody looks at me like, "How do you know about this?" I'm like, "Well, I saw the VH1 special on."
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only. I watch a lot of TV, so it just happened to be part of it. And
my introduction to her was with all the stuff she would do with Mike Myers, whether it be on Saturday Night Live, Wayne's World, and then later on Austin Powers and the Beautiful Stranger stuff, that's my favorite song of hers. But yeah, other than that, I don't really know. There's a few songs of hers I do think are really, really good, but I think she did really good in this. I mean, she's not the best actress.
Yeah, but you don't have to be for this role. I don't think that's
no. I think she can be a decent in this capacity. It's got to be a capacity which she could really like. She's like a chameleon. She likes to like really immerse herself in something. So if you give her something that she can like just play this, very, very particular like character, well, she might be able to do it. And this one worked, and the songs are good. But yeah, she's all over Dick Tracy, and he's just like, no, I got my test true heart.
And yeah, and I just love how he could literally just like Mr. Bean push her away and just like not a problem.
Be gone, thought.
Yeah,
the Pan strong.
Except for the one time that Madonna does decide to come by and kiss Dick on the lips. Of course, Tess has to walk in, and that throws a wrench in that. When he was literally just being like, "Oh, okay, back off, honey."
Yeah. Warren Beatty. Sometimes he looked a little old for the role, but sometimes he looked perfect. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't recast it. I would be interested to see because they really wanted Mel Gibson.
That would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting. I think he could have pulled it off.
Yeah, because I just picture Mel Gibson like in Payback, which would be kind of like a similar. Well, it's like a bad guy version, but like it might become Dick Tracy world, Yeah, but yeah, I can see. I will say though, I do think that Warren Beatty kind of fits the Dick Tracy mold pretty well, and I think his age, he just hits it perfectly. If he was any older, that might have been too much. But the upside of Warren Beatty is he's one of those guys who like, because what's he probably about, give or take 50 at this point in this movie?
I think he's 52 when it comes out.
Yeah, like he looks a little bit younger than a lot of the other actors in the age 50. You know what I mean?
especially
So
in this time.
yeah, because one of those ones like you think about like boy, it's like you feel like his prime's like the late 60s, early 70s, and you're like, oh, by this point here, and he's still he never looks old in it. He looks kind of just right. He almost looks more like he's 40 years old.
Yeah.
Realistically, he pulls off pretty well being like 10 years younger than what he really is.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not like today when they're all like, Brad Pitt's like pushing 70, I think.
I don't think he's that old, but
He's in his early 60s, I think.
I think he's just about preaching that though. Yeah.
Yeah. And he doesn't, I mean, he looks, young as hell. He's got to be in the 60s, right?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
His first movie, is like Cutting Class, and that's like 89, something like that.
Yeah.
He's probably give or take 20 in that.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe late 50s.
Yeah. Well,
But Tom Cruise is in his 60s.
yeah, and Tom Cruise is, still the man doing all the stunts,
Yeah. But Warren Beatty, yeah, he works for this. I mean, I wouldn't, there's nothing in here I would say I would want to change it, but I would also be really interested to see what they did if they did somebody else and he just directed it and somebody else starred as the role. But I think he's a little too vain for
Well,
that.
he still owns the Dick Tracy like movie rights.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing things like apparently there was like he did something with Leonard Maltin on Turner Classic Movies where
Yeah.
he dressed up as Dick Tracy and had an interview that way, and that was considered like okay, that counts as a some type of TV or movie role. So you have the Dick Tracy property, but I don't know. In a sense, like this movie doesn't have sequels, and it almost felt like they were shooting for it to be like Indiana Jones-ish and have a couple of them. But at the same time, it's almost like one of the best examples of a great one and done movie that doesn't almost need anything else. And almost if you make not say you couldn't have another Dick Tracy movie, but this one here kind of solidifies like the Dick Tracy experience.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to be able to match this. You could maybe redo it or do it just like this style, but I don't think you're going to be able to do Dick Tracy any better. I think a tough, gritty one is just not going to work for the character. I think you need to, because of the absurdity of the villains and just the fact that it's so like stereotypical, like Private Eye of that time, you might as well play into the absurdity of it and have fun with it instead of trying to do something like, really like if Christopher Nolan did this, it would just be like,
yeah, don't ground in reality. The only way I think it would be kind of an interesting, and I did throw that idea was if you did it kind of like the mixed match of how Dread / Punisher War Zones vibe, kind of where they still are like they're like 100% like the character in the comics, and they have kind of like the the sort of the over the topness because you have Scarface that's in or no wait not Scarface I'm trying to blank on that Punisher villain's name all of a sudden, but his face is all cut up and mangled and everything like that. Jigsaw, and you have he literally feels like a Dick Tracy character in that, but just like in a rated R like aspect. I think that's the thing is you could make it like a little bit more like a not rated R just to be rated R, but like make it kind of like a gritty crime movie, but it still has like the over the top. Everybody has the bright colors on. Everybody has that, but you just make it even more. You double down into what it is because already, once again, and this Dick Tracy one for a PG movie, it's pushing like almost like a hard PG-13.
yeah, no, it's very suggestive. It's very risque, violent. Um, it's not the movie that they should have looked for another property to kind of, if they wanted to market something for kids and have all these tie-ins and stuff, there's probably another property out there they could have done that stuff. But we're all the better for it. But it's it's at least PG-13, like going on.
Yeah. Somebody at the MPAA got paid off to make this.
Oh yeah.
There is no way this movie gets by. Like
yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe that's sort of why this movie's kind of a landlocked movie because they've never put out a special edition of it. There's a Blu-ray of it. It's about the closest thing, but it's bare bones. This DVD was kind of one of the last main things, and I don't think it has nothing on it. So
yeah.
Hopefully Warren Beatty just does something with it. I mean, I know he's holding on to it for dear life for some reason.
Yeah.
But if anything, it's like it would be a cool one just to. This is the downfall is like we're kind of past the era of cool special edition movies anymore. Like that shit kind of sailed in like the 2010s in a sense. Because it felt like if you wanted to hit that properly, you should have hit that in like between about 2003 to 2012. That's when you would have got the really good special edition, the double disc Blu-ray of, Dick Tracy with an extended director's cut, put those cool, because there's a cool making of thing that's literally from like 1990 that probably appeared on like CB or ABC or something like that. You could have put some of all those like, archival type things in. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's weird because I think it even skipped. There was a 30th year anniversary of this movie, 6 years ago. Didn't do anything about it, and just it's just kind of been left there. But
Yeah, it is kind of forgotten. It's not even on Disney Plus, by the way.
yeah, see, that's always such a strange one where it's not on. Where'd you have to watch it at? Out of curiosity, I mean, I have my DVD, so that's what I use.
I got really lucky because I was gonna buy it. It was $15 on Fandango, and I didn't do it till right. I was about to watch it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go see if I can where I could find it online. I'm like, well, it is Tuesday. Maybe I got lucky and it was on sale, and it was. That day I watched it. I was like, oh my god, it's $5 now, and I bought it.
That happens to me every once in a while, where it's just like, oh, it just times out right.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with this one. It went on sale on Fandango, $5 when I needed it. So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's not on Disney Plus. It reminds me a little bit of Congo, where it was just this huge marketing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it did better than Congo did, and I think it's more remembered than that movie. But it's kind of a victim of big juggernaut movie comes out. We want to replicate what they did. But we don't have the clout. We don't have the property that can actually do that. So you have something that is a huge multimedia thing, saturates the market. Everybody that was around at the time can remember it coming out because you couldn't escape it. And it just doesn't have the juice to live up to that kind of hype that they put around it. Even though it's fun to look, for me, I love looking back at the hype because they had Dick Tracy, everything. I mean, the trading cards. I mean, all the stuff that Batman had, Dick Tracy had it.
Yeah, just tons of things. It had a Danny Elfman score on top. It was the top.
Yes, the Danny Elfman score was good. Very Batman, also.
Yeah, it's super Batman, but it works.
Yeah.
Because once again, I mean, Dick Tracy and Batman, I get it. They are like very similar, but they're both detectives. They're both, on these like gangster crime streets and everything like that. Like they are similar. I see where they put it together. I think it's like in hindsight, they seem like a strange one, but like you do both 30s comics, and Dick Tracy's the one that kind of started it all. So I think that's where they kind of look at it. It's kind of almost how you'd look at the Princess of Mars being like one of the starters of all the sci-fi type things. Dick Tracy's kind of the start of all your detective, comic book, that kind of era stuff.
Yeah. And, I would be interested, man. I really wish they would have done more with this movie or made more. In hindsight, if they would have had the vision of what Disney would later become and Marvel would later become, they probably would have tried to create that cinematic universe and then have Dick Tracy and the Rocketeer and the Shadow and, all those 30s era pulp heroes and kind of a thing, which would be really, really fun to see.
Yeah, because they have kind of thought about that throughout time of combining some of those characters together.
And, I would love it.
Yeah, that would be super cool and so on like that. But and even this would have been interesting because this movie did make a good enough amount of money that, especially with home release and so on. It's almost like Disney kind of pulled the plug out like on it. Like it kind of like came out, made its money, sold its VHSs, and then they're like, that's enough. And then they just kind of like let it kind of drift away when it still had enough that you could have probably made, if you want to, even a sequel. Because even at the very end, like, yeah, Warren Beatty does kill like a good majority of those guys in there. So it's almost like, who is he left with? And then he chucks Al Pacino over the edge, very similar to Batman, chucking the Joker over. But that's one of those ones you don't see Al Pacino die. So you could always have had him like survive.
Yeah, you're right. I thought about that too. They killed a lot of the villains off. And I think Disney probably just decided, okay, like, how much did we spend on this thing? Did we make a profit? Yeah. But would we guaranteed a profit with the second one? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like Dick Tracy just is kind of it owned a certain small chunk of the 90s belongs to this movie. June of 1990. 1 month in time belongs to this movie, and it doesn't feel like the type of movie that warrants that. But in terms of how popular it is now,
Yeah, no,
but it was a
definitely.
huge, huge deal. Very, very hyped up, and again, I remember the hype.
Yeah, and I just
So
remember because as a kid, it's just I think this is what spawned Dick Tracy returning to the newspaper and all kinds of stuff. And I liked it a lot. It was one of those movies that I thought was super cool. I mean, I probably caught it a couple of years later. Probably I either rented it and or saw it off TV, one or the other. But I used to watch it a bunch then. And do you have this one on VHS out of curiosity?
I thought I did, and I still think I might, but
Because
I
I
think
just have a feeling it probably has that the cover on the VHS has got to be really slick.
it's literally just I know I've seen it, and it's literally just the logo. It says Warren Beatty, then at the top, and Dick Tracy at the bottom.
Is
It
it like
has
the
the
side
logo.
profile of Dick Tracy on it? Is that what?
No, it's the one with him running with the kid.
Okay.
So
It's not like the DVD.
no, it is like that.
Okay, because that's actually pretty. I think that's a cool DVD one right
Yeah.
there.
If I'm not mistaken, the VHS, what it looks like is just like that, but instead of having, it has, like, one thing on top and, like, Dick Tracy's at the bottom and Warren Beatty's at the top, the words, I
Okay.
mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that same image, but I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Warren Beatty's at the top of the VHS.
Yeah, he's at the top of the Dick Tracy one here too, actually.
Yeah. So maybe it is like that.
So it might really like that. But yeah, it's like one of those ones. Everything about Dick Tracy is a pretty sweet movie, all in all. It's got some goofs in it. There is some kind of weird stuff. You got to kind of prepare yourself if you're not used to this. But I think the overall take home of it, it's a good like kind of like tail end of the '80s style movies. Like we're shifting in. We haven't got our T2 yet. We haven't transitioned over to the '90s. But here's like these tail end ones that kind of still keep a lot of that movie magic really going in it,
Yeah.
especially just in the design of it and everything like that. Because I did hear something, but like where it's like people like was looking at it that once Jurassic Park kind of comes out, they're like that's like the beginning of the end. I never really thought about it like that, but I'm like, I guess I see what you mean by that because once the CG starts, it's like it releases the cat out of the bag, and then it just kind of takes over eventually and starts, becoming what it is, and then all the classic stuff of matte paintings and prosthetics and makeup and all the other little effects and models and explosions and all those things start to drift away, more and more and more.
Jurassic Park, I've always like it's one of those like milestones in movies like where okay, everything after this movie release is different. So Star Wars was one of those,
Mm-hmm.
and then well, Jaws was really one of those. Jaws comes on, that makes a huge paradigm shift. And Jurassic Park is like, okay, now CGI is a thing. But Dick Tracy, in comparison, is one of the movies that said this is the last of a lot of movies. Like they were doing shit in this movie that hadn't been done in years, but it worked for this movie, so it was the last time it had ever been done. Period. So really, it was trying to take up, and go backwards in time a little bit in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too because Warren Beatty sort of has that too. With I know Bonnie and Clyde was one of those big extreme shifts in movies. You don't
Mm,
think much of it nowadays, but like when that movie came out, it was just like, oh, things are getting brutal and everything like that.
yeah,
We've shifted from our studio movies to like all of a sudden here's this and Easy Rider. Like probably Easy Rider's, I would say the big one of that time period that
yeah,
tells you that everything is shifting in movies. We have gone from the studio system to now we're doing these kind of like almost like gritty, you would say proto indie feeling kind of movies
mhm,
of real life stuff, and it's going to be dark and it's going to be serious and so on like that.
yeah, yeah. Dick Tracy fits in a weird place in time. It's post Batman. It's before the other ones that we're going to talk about this month. The other '30s pulp heroes that the '90s became obsessed with. So Tracy's special. It's a very unique film. Fits in a very specific time. It's one of those movies that owned a particular point in the '90s and had this huge marketing blitz behind it. So they're not just nostalgic for the movie, but it takes you back to this time where the toys were everywhere and all the little accessories and the Dick Tracy kit and McDonald's is doing this gambling game with kids for some reason. I was like, whatever is this? This is. And yeah, it's just this weird little place in time where they thought this was going to be the next Batman and didn't do as well as Batman, but it did still pretty well. So
Yeah.
fun film to look back on. But I would say before we look, I would venture to say this is probably the most successful one monetarily of the ones we're going to look at, Rocketeer, Shadow, and the Phantom. I would say probably this one made the most money, I would imagine.
If you take Batman and Ninja Turtles out of the equation for this era of comic book stuff, would you say Dick Tracy would probably be the third biggest one?
If you take all the Batman movies out,
Yeah, I'm gonna say all the Batman ones that as a whole. I mean, so Batman, Ninja Turtles. Would you say Dick Tracy would be the third one there?
well, it definitely probably made more money than the other ones for doing this month. The Shadow, the
Because
Phantom,
the
Rocketeer.
funny thing is, it's like Batman's popular, and then it's like instead of getting other superheroes like in that kind of sense, like Spider-Man, and I mean, I know they were shooting for the, the Jim Cameron one, but they didn't get that stuff going. They instead got the pulp heroes, or they went for the indie comics like Tank Girl and Spawn,
Men in Black.
Men in Black. Yeah, they went for. It's kind of I guess Men in Black might be the one that would be the third biggest one by that standard.
Yeah, I think if you include all the like not the noir ones, but all the comic book movies, Men in Black might be second, even to the Batman movies. But I don't know. It's a weird, it's the '90s. I'm thankful for its restraint because it really Batman comes out. What is to stop them in the early '90s from greenlighting a Spider-Man movie or an X-Men movie? But I think everybody knew, even though CGI hadn't made that breakthrough yet, we're like 3 years away from it, from Jurassic Park. I think everybody knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And then that maybe in the later part of the decade, you can do a Spider-Man and an X-Men and things like that. So the only one that jumped the gun really was Spawn, because Spawn, it was it wanted to do it had the type of material that was perfect for CGI, and CGI could bring it to life, but the CGI wasn't ready for Spawn yet. So that's the one that jumped the gun. But the
Yeah.
rest of them fit perfectly right where they were. Men in Black even slightly jumped the gun a little bit, but I love that movie. So
Yeah, because Men in Black still was the good use of CG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There. The only thing that looks bad in that movie is that final alien, but everything else in that movie looks so. When he holds the little baby alien in that movie, the way they deliver it on the side of the road, and it's like that thing looks amazing. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, I think Dick Tracy was probably the most popular. At this time, it might be the third most popular comic book movie in general because Superman, Batman, and then this.
Yeah.
So when it's released, I can't think of another comic book movie that had done as well as those two,
Yeah,
right?
because I guess this, there's Ninja Turtles. That's the other
Yeah.
biggest one. But
Ninja Turtles is weird because I don't think many people knew it was a comic, and it's like they're going there because the TV show.
yeah, and that's really where the popularity. Well, and I feel that's it because Batman sort of makes like these pulp character comic ones. Ninja Turtles is the one that sets off like, well, maybe there's other things like Tank Girl and Spawn and all this stuff that's going to bring us that same like Ninja Turtles money.
Yeah. I wish they would have done like a Dick Tracy animated show instead of doing like fucking Inspector Gadget or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the one I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't do. Is at least just a 1 season or 2 run of a Dick Tracy show in the '90s.
I am too.
That it would have been. The thing is it's a little too early. That I think it would have been one of those shows that plays like an '80s show that just happens to be in the '90s. If it would have came past X-Men / Batman, then it would have been in that same category where they started making those real like serious kind of like kids cartoons, like Real Adventures of Johnny Quest and all that kind of stuff.
In hindsight, if they were smart, like if I had a time machine and I was able to go back and show those people what Dick Tracy becomes and stuff, like, hey, look, there's a show called Batman the Animated Series. Like, y'all could do a Dick Tracy show in that style. It would fit perfectly because you had that Art Deco Gothic look. Oh man, yeah, Batman.
Yeah.
Dick Tracy would have worked really good in that kind of style of a show.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's what would be good. I have a feeling though, if it would have came out in 1990, though, it would have ran like it would have felt like GI Joe.
Oh yes,
and you know what I mean. And sometimes those ones, it's always like decent enough, but like it's not the same. It wouldn't have hit with like that same seriousness. Like in a sense, that's actually where I wouldn't mind seeing a new Dick Tracy thing. Would be something kind of like an animated show. I think would be kind of cool to see a Dick Tracy one, or even just an animated movie. I know I wish it was kind of DC because if DC did it, they'd have the DC animation team that could work on it, or Warner Brothers Animation. But yeah.
It could work. I mean, I think we're, like I said, we got a Dick Tracy comic book coming up. I think this coming week. It'll be for St. Patrick's Day.
Well, that new series, I saved them on my list because they look kind of cool. Like, so somebody's putting some effort into them, and it's like through some random company. So it's like I don't even know who it really is, but
Yeah,
at least there is some Dick Tracy. There's still Dick coming out.
yeah, and there's
Everybody
a lot
can
of
a little Dick.
yeah. Everybody can get a little bit, and sometimes that's all you want.
Yeah,
You don't want a whole lot. So Dick Tracy, there you go. So sorry, I'm kind of like, we're recording this on the day of the spring forward, and I'm fucked. I'm done.
You're falling backwards.
Yeah, gosh, that's right. I'm supposed to spring forward, and I'm falling backwards. But Dick Tracy again, this month, 30s Pulp Heroes this month. That's our gimmick. So again, the Phantom, the Shadow, the Rocketeer. We've flirted with other ones. I mean, I know Darkman's a thing, and then there's Zorro. So maybe we'll find a way to fit some of that in there too. But these are the ones that we're sticking with, and I do have Shadow.
Funny, that's the only one I don't have on DVD is Shadow.
Well, to me, this is one of the aesthetically the coolest things ever.
I know. I love that cover.
Me too. Like the whole thing, and then Alec Baldwin, and yeah, all of it's cool.
Yeah, it's like that. That's how you should do a cover right there.
Dick Tracy too. I think their marketing looks good. Rocketeer with the Art Deco, all of it looks cool. The Phantom is the only one that the movie looks cool, but the marketing is, even though it has that really cool purple, but it's like slam evil. I'm like, okay, what? Like you?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is I remember like the first time I saw that movie, because I just would see the cover of it and go, "That's just kind of corny." And then I remember watching the movie, like, "Oh, movie's really good."
Yeah,
like folks. Yeah, they kind of screwed the pooch there on all that stuff. But the movie, I think also too, I hate to say, in the '90s, if you got a guy running around in purple, like most kids on like the playground be like, there's gonna be some words. Yeah, you can't wear purple in the '90s and get away with it. Like,
yeah.
There's gonna be some derogatory words that have nothing to do with what you're doing it, but it's gonna be said and it's gonna be hardcore. Yeah,
unless you mix teal with it.
Yeah,
you can get away with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dick Tracy, go check it out. You can't watch it on Disney Plus, but you can go buy it for $5 on Fandango if you don't have it. But yeah, fun little movie. Good way to start this month, and we're gonna look the rest of back at these 30s Pulp Heroes. Any last things you'd like to say before we get out of here?
Nah, I think we're good. I'm just looking forward to the next ones.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be a fun month. But thanks for listening to this episode of VIA VHS. You can always find us at VIA VHS if you want to yell at us. And hopefully I'll be awake by next week when we do the Rocketeer next.
Rocketeer's the next one.
Yeah.
So more Disney. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that was on Disney Plus though, I think.
Okay. I got the DVD of that bad boy.
Oh, I don't have that one on VHS either.
I need to pull. I should pull the comic book out of that too, because the comic book's really good too, and it's not super long. But yeah,
maybe I'll read some of that. But anyway, thank y'all for listening again. Y'all have a good one. And VIA VHS is out.